Good evening. This is Dr. Cord. I'm here with Jonette Biebensheimer and Sunshine, as well as Dr. Prasad. And tonight we have a very exciting call for everyone. It's going to be on mental illness and anxiety. We have a very special guest, Dr. Shirley McCullen, who's going to be here in just a moment. But first, I need to read our disclaimer. So these statements and comments have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This information is for educational purposes only, and it includes recent advances in research and in micronutrients. Engage, the micronutrient company, does not claim that our products diagnose, treat, cure, heal, or prevent any diseases or injuries. Engage's products do, however, address our deficiencies and provide our bodies with the nutrition we are lacking. Nothing here is intended to be a substitute for the treatment or a visit to your primary healthcare provider. With that out of the way, we can get things started. Jet, do you want to talk about a little bit what we've been doing, and then we'll
kick off?
Well,
for everybody, welcome everybody. We have been we've been blessed to get to be with Mary Sunshine and Dr. Shirley McCullen, Major, retired in the Army, combat veteran. She has served so many, and she's an incredible human being. The last 2 days, we have got to work with veterans and their families. And tonight's call is really important because we're finishing up Mental Health Month in the month of November. And the last night, we're going to talk about anxiety. It is the #1 diagnosed mental health disease in the world. And okay, we have logistic stuff here. I'm like
trying to juggle.
So with that, we wanted to talk about the basics with Dr. Prasad about what are symptoms, okay? What is the current treatment that's out there? How is it working for the veterans, and what has Dr. Shirley is seen in that population? And really, most importantly, what are the strategies and the body of work that Dr. Prasad has to be able to help so many people around the world that are suffering from anxiety? And so with that, we're going to kick that off. But why don't we go ahead and just go over Dr. Prasad's accolades in case we have some brand new people on here. I'm going to pull up Dr. Prasad's accolades and we're going to go over them real quick. All right? It's okay. I have it right here. Here we go.
Well, it's always with great honor that I get to introduce Dr. Prasad. Dr. Prasad was a professor at the University of Colorado School of Medicine for more than 30 years, and he was a director of vitamin and cancer research. He was also the former president of the International Society of Cancer and Nutrition, and he was personally invited to sit on the Nobel Prize nominating committee for candidates in medicine. As most people know, but if you don't, Dr. Prasad was also the world's first PhD radiological biologist. Now, this was a 7.5-year program. Dr. Prasad finished it in 3 years. He's the discoverer of the anti-cancer potency of vitamin E succinate, as well as butyric acid, the small fatty acid formed in the fermentation fibers of the gut. And it is also an anti-cancer agent. Dr. Prasad has authored or co-authored more than 32 textbooks. I believe you're on your 34th. And he's published well over 300 peer-reviewed articles. He's also listed in PubMed more than 450 times.
He's been published on many topics such as radiation, cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, diabetes, and very prestigious journals such as Nature and Science. Many. And now anti-aging, which is, he should be, because this call is the Optimal Longevity Series, and he's the epitome of that, because we all want to have that cognition of Dr. Prasad. So welcome, Dr. Prasad. And tonight's call, we have a very distinguished guest. And I'm going to just say my friend, my new sister, Dr. Shirley. You guys, this woman is on a mission to help these people. And before we go further, Dr. Shirley, could you tell us the need that's out there for people and that you know in veterans and veterans families and your community of Tyler that suffer from anxiety?
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. And so let me say good evening to everybody. Hello, specifically to Dr. Prasad. It's always a pleasure to see his face. And so the last 2 days here in Tyler, Texas has been amazing. I want to thank you guys for coming to East Texas to think about the more than 20,000 veterans that we have living here in East Texas. Prior to COVID, I volunteered every single week. I drive into Dallas 2 days a week to continue to use my skills and be able to help veterans. And let me just say, I wish I had known about this product when I was going to Dallas every week, because I saw so many of my comrades experiencing anxiety from the minor level all the way to the panic attacks. And sometimes they would have them right there in front of me. I serve on the board, the mental health advisory board for the VA hospital there in Dallas, Texas. And so we would see this every single week, what these veterans were experiencing. Most of them were combat vets. Some of them I had served with. And so it's just so wonderful to find these products. And I thank my good friend, Mary Sunshine, who introduced me to Dr. Russ and Jet, and then Dr. Prasad, and all of the great people that are working with this product. So thank you, thank you, thank you, because I want all these veterans here in East Texas to know about this product. So we'll continue to let them know day by day. I serve on several boards here, military boards, and so I see veterans every single day in my career. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shirley.
And you
Yes, sir.
also, I mean, I think I might have missed the fact that you were involved in Iraq a couple times. Just give us a little highlight of what you did there, because you were paramount in working on our soldiers. You can also talk about our friend that we had this week.
Yes. Okay. Well, only one time. I am a combat vet, and so one of my skills is ICU, CCU, and all of that fast-paced medicine. ER. I'm certified in all those areas. So so obviously, I was sent into the field where we would see a lot of injuries. But I was stationed again there at Landstuhl, Germany, and of course, we had none other than Staff Sergeant Shiloh Harris to come into Landstuhl. Yes, Germany, the steel wheel, exactly, and amazing. And it was so great to be reconnected to Shiloh. But at any rate, we had him to come into Landstuhl. I removed him from the helicopter and sent him obviously straight to ICU, from ER to ICU. And so what I said, and I reluctantly said that in front of Shiloh, but of course I know that he knew this. The one thing that they were looking for was the body bag for him, because obviously we didn't think that he would make it. But there was some people who had less injuries than Shiloh that didn't make it. So it just told us that God still had some work for Shiloh to do. He needed to get information out to other veterans and experience Dr. Prasad and all of the great friends. And so to reconnect back to him was outstanding. And then after I finished my tour of duty overseas there, I was sent to Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio. And guess who shows up at the burn unit? None other than Shiloh. So, and then in between that time, about 15, 20 years ago, I was big into pageants here in Texas. So I was judging the Miss Texas pageant, and none other than Shiloh was also a judge at the Miss Texas pageant there in Plano, Texas, which is the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So to be able to reconnect back to him again this week was just heartwarming for me. And so I thank everybody involved, in particular, my dear friend, Mary Sunshine.
It was so funny because Mary Sunshine enrolled Shiloh, who was a friend of mine, and then then Shiloh ended up enrolling Dr. Shirley. But you know, this lady is amazing, and we're really blessed to have her on here. And the last thing she did today was, well, Dr. Shirley, why don't you tell us what you did with Shiloh? Because that was
There wasn't, Dr. Prasad, there wasn't a dry eye in that.
not a dry eye anywhere.
Really?
Right. Well, Shiloh is a hero to us all across America. We watched him when he was before Congress. We've just watched him on television, and all the veterans actually know about him. So with him being in our city, and I don't do this too frequently, I've been in council here for 5 years, and I've only given keys to the city 4 times. And Shiloh was my 4th person. So we actually named November the 27th, which was yesterday, as Staff Sergeant Shiloh Harris Day in the city of Tyler, Texas. And we gave him the keys to the city. And so we'll celebrate him this time next year, but we celebrate him all the time because he's such an inspiration to the rest of us veterans.
And if you all want to read an amazing book, this is Shiloh's book called Still Wheel. And Shiloh Harris is a good friend of all of ours. And I will tell you that Shiloh loves these products. He can't talk enough about it. And about 6 weeks ago, I've been working on him for 7 years, talking to him and trying to share with him and trying to help him to get these products in his body. And he finally said, yeah. On a really bad day, I called him. He was really cranky and he barked at me. And I said, look, you know what? I just want you to try them. I want to help you. And that's something that I want everybody on the call to understand. It's not who they are. It's how you address it. Just, I want to help you. And he stood up in front of everybody. He's done this multiple times and said, I can't believe how great I feel. His travel schedule is crazy.
And he has terrible anxiety.
Yes.
He has debilitating anxiety.
And now he says, sometimes I'm walking and all of a sudden I go, is this anxiety? I don't think so. I'm good. And he just keeps walking and he's doing great. So Dr. Prasad, poor Shiloh.
May I say something? What really captured what you're saying, and that was Shiloh said, I've been involved in some good products, but this is the first great product that I've been involved with. And he said, this is great. And I really appreciate whomever introduced him to put those into his body. And so he differentiates the difference between good products and a great product.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Excellent.
So it's time to get started.
Let's back up a little bit. What, for everybody on them, let's go back to basics, Dr. Shirley. What are some symptoms that are telltale for everybody on here that you may have anxiety? What are the symptoms?
Right. So there's levels of anxiety, obviously, mild. And then, of course, as you mentioned, Shiloh mentioned the word panic attacks. So I've seen people having mild where they may be sleepless, they can't sleep at night, or they're just fidgety, and they just want to talk about maybe issues that they feel they cannot solve. So we can go from mild anxiety to moderate anxiety to severe anxiety, all the way to that panic attack. But it was so beautiful because he said to him, he was talking to himself, well, am I having a panic attack? And then he goes, well, no, I'm not having a panic attack. So he's not having those palpitations and all of those things that go along with panic attacks or anxiety. So it's just, once again, I wish I had known about these products when I first came home, because I was a little sleepless and a little restless. I did go to a 6-week program to help me through what I observed and saw during the time that I was at war, because I did see a lot of gruesome things. And so, and then the other thing that I experienced is that I thought that my husband was not structured enough. I didn't like things in the sink, just simple stuff, Well, there's a dishwasher right next to the sink. Why don't you put the things in the dishwasher rather than in the sink? Just little small stuff. And then why you hang things on the door when you have a closet that you can put these things in, and you have why your shoes are here. So it was little bitty things that just really aggravated me because I was so structured. And one day, I think I told this to everybody today or yesterday, he told me that I'm not your soldier and you can't tell me what to do. I live here. And so Dr. Prasad, that woke me up to say, yeah, this is his house as well. And maybe he'll leave his shoes there for a minute, but he'll eventually put them away.
No, Dr. Shirley, I'm going to speak for all men in America. What's wrong with that?
My mother told us that there's a place for everything and put it back there where it belongs, because somebody
Well,
will come back.
that's why you opened up those hospitals in Baghdad. And it wasn't just one, it was multiple hospitals. And you didn't just see a few people, you saw so many of these people coming in, blown up, horrific injuries. And I remember asking you, because I did 10 years in emergency medicine, I said, how do you do it? How do you come home after seeing people with injuries like Shiloh and worse? And you said to me, I leave it at work.
That's right.
And then you did share with me that you had some special training and some special coursework and stuff for 6 months to try and deal with, for me, it lasted for years and years and years, having the nightmares that I had, and I didn't see anything like you saw on a daily basis.
Well, what this is a final thing I'll say to you is that speaking of setting up hospitals, I established a comprehensive breast cancer center in the European Theater in Landstuhl and became the chief nurse and ran that because they looked at my background and the fact that before going into the military, I did breast cancer research for University of Texas, was an adjunct professor there. And so they saw those skills, because what happened was when we were on the battlefield, soldiers, 23, the youngest one that passed away, female, was 23 with breast cancer. And then we had gentlemen that were coming down with testicular cancer. And so I was being able to determine those. And so my commander brought me back out of the field into Landstuhl. And that's when I established the breast cancer research center there. And as well as established a ICU program so that we could train more physicians and doctors and nurses, so that they wouldn't have to come back country and get that training. We could give them that training right there overseas.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Whew. You can see how blessed we were to get a view with Dr. Shirley for the last 2 days, and the veterans in need. So
and Jeff and Helen, they rolled into town too. So
we had all kinds of support. Dr. Prasad, how can we help the number one mental health disease in the world being diagnosed left and right? How can we help them?
Well, first you have to know why it happens, and what kind of changes in your brain, in your body goes through. And then only you can address how to resolve this issue. Why you develop anxiety, PTSD, like I was surprised that Dr. Shirley doesn't have a severe PTSD, the kind of things she was exposed to. But maybe she's more tougher than many other people. And then because that is an environment that most of the PTSD patients go through when they return from the war. This kind of, even civilian, if you have tragedy, some people die in the family member or accident, they develop also, but not as frequently as veterans because they are exposed quite a bit and for a long time. And so, so you have to know what is happening, what leads to this kind of anxiety, depressions, and various levels. What I'm going through the literature found out that increased oxidative stress is the single most important contributor to any kind of mental health issue. Not only just anxiety, but depression, any kind of thing is always there. And then he said, okay, that's understandable. And then also what happens, that intestinal dysbiosis that nobody has addressed yet at all has also contributed to the development of various level of anxiety disorders. And third thing is that the omega-3 fatty acid is so important for brain function because 40% of the brain fatty acid is omega-3. It is needed so much. So that is, and then what happened, what oxidative stress does, it oxidizes the omega-3 because fatty acid is very easily oxidizable by free radicals. They can damage omega-3. So now, because of oxidative stress, you have omega-3 is not functional if you have it. And whatever little amount you have it there in the brain normally, if you are not taking any supplement. And then fourth thing is collagen peptides. So what collagen peptide does, and actually it contributes. Why? Because collagen peptide, as you grow older, or even if you disease process, the brain suffers severe damage. And then severe damage that in some cases reduces your mental capacity to recall or memory loss, you can say. Sometimes could be transient, could be more frequent loss, and inability to perform daily duty that you forget, and so these kind of issues develop it. So the question is, and then another thing that especially in mental disorder is add up to increase oxidative stress and inflammation, but also excessive release of glutamate that make you hyperactive, your anxiety, you can't think, agitated. This kind of behavior changes is also occurs. And so then you can say that, oh, how I can address all these issues at the same time. Well, for example, you take a good example, take like micro daily EMF. It can reduce oxidative stress, inflammation. This has been proved in human trial as well as our experience with our customers that they increase oxidative stress and inflammation at the same time. It is very important because you can take a Advil and can reduce inflammation, but has nothing to do with the oxidative stress. So you cannot use that kind of strategy. And so this one, and also micro daily EMF can protect, if you are taking a supplement, can protect the brain's the omega-3 that you get oxidized. Now it won't get oxidized, so it will perform very useful function of the brain. In not only it protects against brain against a different type of stressor. So omega-3 is very important, and it gets damaged by oxidative stress. You see how important oxidative stress is. Brain, just like peripheral tissue, also have a insulin receptor, and insulin receptor is responsible for utilization of glucose in the blood, in the brain, as well as in peripheral tissue. And so what happens when you have a disease process like high level of oxidative stress, then it will damage the insulin receptor. So brain becomes resistant to glucose metabolism. So your neuron cannot generate energy. All these things contributes to all various kind of mental illness. And so what you do? Well, then we have for example, omega-3. If we take omega-3, it is the only agent that I know of that can activate the way insulin works. Insulin receptor goes to receptor, binds it, and then activate another molecule called AKT. When that molecule gets activated, then glucose transporter protein, which is lying inside the cytoplasm, get message, you migrate to cell surface membrane. And as soon as glucose transporter protein comes on the cell membrane and glucose is hanging around, now they can enter inside the neuron and can generate energy. So it is very important. So when you have a mental disorder or when you have a damage, because of the damage, you have increased oxidative stress in your body, even though you are young. because of the environmental you are in, oxidative stress will increase. Generally, oxidative stress increases normally as you grow older. But in this case, you are exposed to high environmental factor, and that can increase your oxidative stress. And oxidative stress increases, then all the hell loose. And so you can see that why it is important that you have also, not only you have to correct the intestinal dysbiosis, and for that we have a probiotics, which will reverse the intestinal dysbiosis in favor of useful bacteria, beneficial bacteria, which produces a lot of good molecules, vitamin B, vitamin K, certain neurotransmitters. So this is very important. And so now collagen, I was talking about the collagen peptides. I was just reading this afternoon paper that collagen peptide also improves anxiety disorder. Why? Because what happens that in anxiety disorder happens, then there are many factors, increased oxidative stress and loss of collagen. Generally, loss of collagen occurs as you grow older. But in the presence of high oxidative stress in a younger individual, the collagenase activity increases. Oxidative stress is responsible for increasing collagenase activity, which degrades your collagen. Normally, if it gradually happens. You increase oxidative stress, then you start losing collagen gradually. But when you have a high oxidative stress environment, even if you are younger, then it can also do the same thing, increase the collagenase activity, and therefore your collagen started going down in the brain. And when it goes down in the brain, the collagen plays very important in a structural integrity of all your organs. It is 30% of your total body protein is collagen. It is present in all organs, including brain, heart, every place else. And one of the major functions is to maintain a structural integrity. But when you lose collagen, either as a function of aging or because of the stressful environment in younger people, then you will have the same results. The structure.
This is new. That when you're saying this, I've not heard it that way. So people that have a lot of oxidative stress,
yes,
like the soldiers, people that are around a lot of chemicals, people around radiation,
yes,
abusive relationship,
many things cause that. But to me, that means that anxiety at a younger age could be like from this what you just talked about with the collagen and the building blocks. That we have a way to fix that now. I mean, that wasn't really on the table. I want to say this. So Dr. Prasad, I'm not going to pull it up, but what I did today is the same as you. And I went and looked up anxiety, because most research for everybody on here is they're a single nutrient. They don't put, Dr. Prasad's work is a multi-micronutrient approach. It is his novel approach. So I too, Dr. Prasad, pulled up the latest papers on omega-3 and anxiety. 2023 paper, very large. So number one, having that. Number two was the dysbiose. Okay. But no, actually number one was oxidative stress.
Number
dysbiose. And I giggled because if I pulled it up right now, everyone would go, did they plan that? No, because that's how people look at it, as a single approach.
Right.
Okay. And your work is a multi-micronutrient approach.
So that's very important. Another thing that is very specifically, if people have already anxiety disorders, severe, mild, or moderate, or severe, makes no difference. The core 4 that we have, I discuss it, but also the CBD. For example, one of the drug like.
Can I pull up the core 4 first, and then we can okay. Because I want people to see it. For people that haven't seen it, this is really the solutions he talked about, and his body of work are right here in the core 4. So let me pull that up for you real quick.
+1, +2.
Hang on, Dr. Prasad. I mean, Dr. Port, you're getting ahead of us here. Okay. Dr. Prasad, would you mind walking through?
Yeah, you can
Okay.
see the first one is, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dr. Prasad. That's as big as it goes. Go ahead, Dr. Prasad, the micro daily EMF.
Yes, is the
And-
first one,
Yeah.
but there is a two form, capsule form or hydro. I prefer hydro, especially for serious cases like PTSD or serious mental disorders, any kind. And because it is absorbed rapidly and distributed through all your organ rapidly. And if you take capsule, eventually it will do good, but it is slow process. That's the only difference. And then you have, of course, the probiotics that we know. And uniqueness of probiotics is that we have most of the beneficial probiotics, lactobacillus and bifido strains, and they are useful. But if you take just them, which in most of the commercial products are, in a capsule form orally, 60 to 70% are destroyed in a acid pH of a stomach. And then it enters into the intestine, a small intestine, where they face another acid environment, bile acid. So by the time they go to colon, where they form colony, there are very few left. So we decided to identify two, the acid-resistant probiotics, which have been tried clinically, individually. One is the Bacillus coagulant, and another is Saccharomyces boulardii. And as I mentioned earlier, that the Bacillus coagulant is the only probiotics approved by the FDA to be added in infant formula, because as you know, infants' gut is sterile, and the hazard of harmful bacteria forming a colony is high, therefore they add it. And clinician here, for example, my wife had some intestinal issue. They recommended her the Saccharomyces boulardii alone. But it did a little bit good, but not very much good, until she got our probiotics. Now she's in good shape. So that is one difference we have with other probiotics, that we have added two probiotics which are acid resistant. So now they can go there, and those who survive now have a chance to form colony. And plus they do, and they don't stay in your gut for a long time. 5 to 7 days, they get all eliminated. That's why you have to take every day. Now, the third one is omega-3. We already said omega-3 is very important, especially DHA and EPA. And if you are a vegan, you can get a omega-3 from, you buy it isolated from the algae, because fish do not make it, just like human. Fish like salmon do not make a omega-3 because they eat the algae, which already made for them omega-3, and that's why their body has so high level of fishes in general, but salmon in particularly high. And so those of you who are vegan can obtain omega-3 from the algae. But there, only thing you have to make sure, because there is no heavy metal, sometimes when you isolate and purify it, they have a heavy metal like mercury and lead. So make sure that they have it taken care of that. Otherwise, you can have it. And then omega-3, then collagen peptides is actually the clinical study that Janet was mentioning, was 10 to 20 grams a day can dramatically improve the symptoms of anxieties. And so, but it's not optimal. It will improve it. But I will tell you what collagen for. So those are core 4. But the CBD is extremely important, as important as any of those, if you have anxiety disorder. Because right now, one of the most prescribed medication, which are given to PTSD people, I found out when I was trying to collaborate with the VA hospital on PTSD in Los Angeles. And that's a very big hospital. And so I was told that they are given a serotonin inhibitor of serotonin reuptake. Why? Because serotonin level calms you down. You get less anxiety, which is very important. that serotonin level in your neuron is very high. And one of the ways you use an inhibitor of serotonin reuptake, because if serotonin gets uptake inside the neuron, then they will get metabolized. And so they prevent it. And so, but also, but they have some toxicity, adverse effects, long term. But CBD does exactly the same thing, act as a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, and it has no toxicity. In addition to that, the CBD also stimulates directly the serotonin receptor so that cell can make more serotonin. You can see how it is important, useful. Plus, CBD also stimulates the production of dopamine in dopamine neuron. And as you know, dopamine makes you happy. So all these combination, and also CBD prevents the release of excess amount of glutamate. So, and then when you have combined already with the micro daily EMF, because suppose glutamate is now released, block the release of glutamate. But glutamate, which is already accumulated in your brain, that will cause damage to your nerve cell. How you do that? Antioxidant micro daily that we have has been shown to block the toxic effect of glutamate. So you can see that if you just take CBD, that may not be sufficient. You have to combine with all these things together to have an optimal effect on anxiety or any level of anxiety and depression. And you will see that I wish somebody will run a clinical study, but short of that, it is non-toxic approach. And I'm not saying that you don't take any what doctor recommends it. Follow doctor recommendation, but because they have no counter indication, there is no adverse effect with any medication that you will be getting from your doctor. So if your doctor has recommended some drug, then this is useful, then you follow it. But at the same time, you also use our product so that when doctor sees that, oh, you are making dramatic improvement, he may like to gradually reduce the dose or totally say you don't need it.
And Dr. Prasad has written a paper on the endocannabinoid system and the micronutrients.
Yeah.
I don't have that, so I pulled it up a few times. All you have to do is Google Dr. Kedaran Prasad, and it's an endocannabinoid and antioxidant paper. He'll walk you through the combination of both the antioxidant defense system and the endocannabinoid system. But some of the most fascinating things that you wrote in there to me also was how it affects the glutamate too, Dr. Prasad, right?
Yeah. And because that is those things are also involved in addiction. And so I think it is amazing that how people have ignored all these years. But see, they don't understand what are causing it. They go for the symptoms. Oh, anxiety symptoms. Okay, this drug has been shown to some effect. Recommended. So, but our approach has been that you have to know the causes, and this is all documented in scientific literature, and how we can reduce all at the same time, not one at a time. And so I think it is amazing that this is, as you know, this is the first time a multiple and I supported a multiple antioxidant approach in reducing the memory loss while you are growing old, which is different than Alzheimer's dementia. But people don't know the distinction. So I think my approach always has been, even though it's not popular, but I keep pushing for it. Eventually, they will pay attention to.
I'm bringing back Dr. Shirley. We dropped her, but I think she's back on. There you are. Okay. So Dr.
Yes,
Shirley,
I'm here.
So Dr. Shirley, in all your experience for people on here, isn't it amazing that if there is finally scientific validation that's safe, that can be able to help people that are suffering
Yes.
PTSD and anxiety? I mean, all your experience, Dr. Shirley, I mean, it's just truly remarkable.
Do you have any questions for Dr. Prasad regarding this?
Yeah, I love to hear it.
Well, I just think about all of the veterans that I would see every day there at the VA that was always stressed out. They were always worried. They were always fearful, but they didn't know why they were fearful. And
Yeah.
I'm going to use this as an example. One of the veterans here in
We're losing you, Dr. Shirley.
Bad signal. Whoop,
Rats.
we
Okay.
lost her.
Rats. But while we wait for her to come back on, we have a couple people in the chat I want to
Yeah.
acknowledge.
Yeah.
Are you back on, Dr. Shirley? Okay.
Yes, I was saying that we don't have very good broadband here in Tyler that we're working on here in East Texas. But what I was saying, I was about all the different veterans that I would see each week, and they complain about not being able to sleep. They were restless. They were worried about things, but they didn't know what exactly they were worried about. They just was worried, but they were tired of taking all of the antidepressant drugs and so forth. And they were going to group counseling, and many of the ladies would go, they didn't want to be in the same group with the male. And so they wanted to separate themselves from men. And it was just all kinds of things that they were experiencing. But I wanted to mention one young man here in Tyler. I knew him quite well, and he stayed in his combat boots at all times, his complete gear. And so he would say, we would try to get him off the streets. He had a house, but he never hardly went to it. And so he would say to us, well, I gotta protect the people. I have to stay out here in the field. Well, he would say in the battlefield, I have to stay out here on the battlefield so that I can make sure that the people back in America were safe. And he was right here in Tyler, Texas. But the sad part about that.
I think we lost her again. Rats. Okay. While we're waiting, we have a couple are you on, Shirley? Go for it. I think you're back on.
Yes, I'm back. I want to tell about this woman. Yeah, I'm on. The sad part about what happened with him is that people would make fun of him and his mental illness. And so there were these three guys that poured gasoline on him and set him afire. And he did end up in Dallas in the burn unit, but he finally passed away. But that's the sad part, is that some people did not take the mental illness, the PTSD. They didn't take that seriously. And
we're going to give her a second. Wow, that's just, whew. Okay. We're going to wait for her to pop back on. But when we do, Dr. Prasad, we have a couple. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Shirley, you're on.
Well, my final comment was that so people won't be embarrassed to say they have PTSD.
So I hope.
And there are soldiers that are very embarrassed.
Yeah, but somehow try to convince them that they try at least for 90 days. And if it doesn't work for them, then don't continue it. So just try it. Nothing. Worst scenario would be it has no effect, but it's not a toxic, so it does not threatening anything in your career. And so I think that has to be communicated, that this is a non-toxic approach. The worst thing would be it has no effect. But what we hear what we know about it, is a very good chance that you will get better.
Well, we've dropped her again. Okay, but maybe she's hearing us. But for everybody on here, that story just really hit my heart. I know. Many people commit suicide because this is advanced mental disorder. Otherwise, nobody wants to die. But if you take all these things, they will improve and they may not die. I mean, one veterans every day
some fearful statistics. And I can't, and we all trying to convince them that just try it. Just try even for a month.
I think we're getting Dr. Shirley back.
Yes.
You know what? You are very persistent because we need to hear this message. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. You're back on, Dr. Shirley.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't know how much of that you heard. I'm
We
just
heard,
saying that
we heard
I'm
about-
happy to know.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Which part did you hear, Jeff?
We heard that he was burned.
I was just talking about, yes. Well, he thought he was still on the battlefield, in other words. So he stayed in his combat gear, and he said, I have to stay on the battlefield to protect those people in America. But he was right here in Tyler, but he thought that he was still out there. He was a Vietnam vet. And so people made.
Oh, okay.
It's okay.
While we're waiting, okay, we have a couple chats I want to share with you, Dr. Prasad.
Mhm.
I want to personally thank Juliana Decker. Her son, this has changed her son's life. We're going to have her on a different special call, but she said has worked miracles on her son too. And I want you to know, I personally thank Juliana. She has an incredible product story and how this has saved her son. So Juliana, that's a separate whole call. We're going to have talking about your son with a thank you. Okay. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Life-changing. And then we have Barbie Stahl. To everyone, she was able to slowly wean off of her Celexa and replaced it with CBD along with the microdaily EMF. These people are sharing how they have used it and how they've helped them. And lastly, Dwight Cox. This is a powerful one. This is what this is about, Dr. Prasad, is that he wrote, I am a 100% disabled veteran. I suffer from severe PTSD and anxiety. I was on Seroquel and Lexapro for the last 3 to 4 years, and I began taking the Core 4 and CBD Boost and Brain Boost 3 months ago. I've been off all Seroquel and Lexapro medications for the last 60 days. These are amazing products.
See, I mean,
And-
this all confirms what I was saying, that these are all based on biochemically. If your stress, what is going on in your body, if you down-regulate them, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
It
My
is.
hair stands on the edge.
I
Just
know.
this story.
So let's say it another way, Dr. Prasad. These mental health issues are metabolic.
Yes, it
They're
is.
metabolic. This is
Yeah.
Dr. Prasad's work. We have a second while we're waiting for Dr. Shirley if she comes on. Juliana, will you briefly share right now about your son's condition and what these products have done for him? Juliana is an amazing skilled massage therapist from Missouri, an amazing mother. Okay, but would you mind just sharing briefly what it has done for you and your son?
You'll have to unmute.
Gotta unmute, sweetie. Gotta unmute.
All right, I gotcha. I had
Yeah.
to find it.
Yeah.
I'm straight from work, so I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I don't look real glamorous or anything, but so since Josh was little, and I'm gonna try and say it without crying, it took me 6 years just to get a diagnosis for him in Missouri. And he had a traumatic brain injury, supposedly at birth. But I've had a lot of my friends that are PTs say that he's had stroke after stroke after stroke. We have MTHFR. My uncle is very schizophrenic. I've been told never to go near him in Colorado. And so Josh started hearing voices, like at a pretty early age. And I thought it was just medications, because that's all they do is give us medication after medication. And so Josh, he could never get over, and he actually told me he wanted to die one day. And now he's 17 and he's getting his short-term memory back, which is really hard with a traumatic brain injury. I just want to let everybody know that it's not easy. And I've got to remind him to take his medicine, I call it medicine now, so that he'll take it because that's what nutrition is for us right now. And his voices have gone away. And as long as he's taking the nutrition, he doesn't hear the voices. So it works. And if you weren't alive and David didn't make this company and Dolores didn't move to Missouri, I probably would have never gotten better. So thank you.
Thank you, Juliana, for
That
sharing.
was beautiful.
Yeah.
Perfect. We had a couple of other
Woo.
ones too. Just wanna
Okay,
answer
thank
any
you.
of
Love you.
those.
Appreciate you, Juliana. Okay.
Yeah, you
Thank
too.
you. Thank you very much.
And we have Barbie also said that she was on Celexa for 11 years as well as Xanax, and she's now off of these products, off of the medication with the use of the products. We have Trinidad says to Dr. Prasad, thank you so much, Dr. Prasad. All of our lives have changed because you said yes. So, you know, anxiety and mental health, depression, addictions, post-traumatic stress disorders are all metabolic issues.
Yes.
And Dr. Prasad has worked his whole life on this topic. He is the expert. And I really hope this month of November of mental health and these topics have helped people to give them hope that they can get better. Okay. And Juliana, can you put the products in the chat possibly that Josh takes? Because I know people want to know what products he's currently
Sure.
taking. Okay. Yeah. We're going to ask Miss Mary. Mary, I know that you've suffered from some severe anxiety. How has it been the last 2 months that you've been on product for people on here to know? How has it been for you being on products and those symptoms?
It's been a major difference in focus, a major difference in sleeping, a difference in being able to talk about things that have happened within my family. I have lost several family members to addiction, including my own mother. And it was hard. It was hard because with her, I was not able to give her the compassion or the empathy that she deserved at that time because I didn't understand.
Mhm.
How have the products worked for you over the last, what is this now, 6 weeks, 2 months that you've been involved
3
in?
months.
3 months that
3
you've been
months,
involved in. It's gone by so fast.
months.
3 months that you've been in
So
the company.
quick.
What changes have you seen in your own mental health, mental stability, just day-to-day ability to handle, you know, you have to know this, folks. Okay, so Mary's finished her bachelor's, is that right?
Mhm.
Working on her master's, also working on a PhD
Yeah.
to be a naturopath, all at the same time, running a reflexology practice and building a micro-daily business. And last month, you were the
That's amazing.
number one person with 19 enrollments
Yeah.
last month.
Yeah.
How has this worked for you?
Well, sharing how it worked for me and being able to talk to my clients about the differences in myself and having that relationship with them. And, you know, most of the time people come to me because they're desperate,
Yeah.
because they've tried so many other things and they're just frustrated. So being able to share my story of the differences and how I have been able to handle the stress of my son with his accident, handle the stress of running the business, handle the stress of, you know, being all hats in the business.
Yep.
And still being able to sleep 7 or 8 hours.
That's
And-
good. That's what I'm doing it, you know. I don't have a stress. I should, but my age. But I'm very happy. I worked and, you know, and think about it, how to address any of those issues.
And the energy level.
Yeah,
know,
my energy level is very high.
Yeah.
Only problem is little lower back pain, but that is a price I paid because I was fanatic on sports. tennis and
He was a little
volleyball.
competitive, everyone. Don't let him fool you. He was
We're gonna
very-
both work on you in January when we come to your birthday.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to, yeah.
Hang on until then.
We want to say
Okay, I will.
just a couple things before we close. Doctor, some of the stressors that could cause this in our environment could be that your exposure to EMF. Okay, your exposure.
I'm exposed quite a bit because I work with a computer. But even though when I was not working as much, because it has been for the last 10 years, so it is not a new phenomena. And in those days, I worked very little with, not as much as I'm working now with computer, but, I try to minimize it, but, keep working like this. And then I don't keep, for example, cell phone in my pocket, keep away. And in nighttime, I don't keep in my room anything. So everything is upstairs. And so I try to minimize as much as possible.
Well, I think that has an effect on our veterans as well, because they spend a lot of time exposed to high amounts of electric fields when they're in the field, and when they come back, that has an effect. And what Dr.
No
Sher-
question about it. That's why that you recommend, Dr. Court, that microdaily seems to at least reduce certain extent this kind of acute syndrome, acute symptoms, and obviously chronic as well. It will, but it is very important. But I wish somebody can run a clinical study on core 4 plus CBD
plus two.
I could possibly
plus
do
2.
by
You
Yes,
can do that
yes.
for your PhD. Yeah, we could make that happen.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, you can run a thesis on that.
I would like to.
Yeah, we can make that happen. As Jed and I were driving into Dallas, I really felt the EMF in Dallas much more than living in Wyoming and
Oh yeah, of course.
I just had a couple of extra hydros and was able to get through the amount. I mean, all the vehicles and all the cell towers and so forth, so much more than where we live, was having an effect on me. It was creating irritability. And
anxiety symptoms.
the anxiety symptoms.
Irritability, heart palpitations. So if you're
No
feeling
question about EMF have become a terrible things. And in my all book, I have written this is one of this bigger environmental risk factor. But how you do it, you can't avoid it, but you can reduce as much as possible, and take micro daily. At least you can take, if nothing else, you can take micro daily.
Will we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Do you know? Bring that up?
No.
Okay.
All right. So we want to personally thank Dr. Shirley McKellar, major, incredible work.
Yeah, I thank her too very much.
Yeah, and she's a
Thank you, Dr.
thank you, Dr. Shirley. And I want to personally thank Juliana, you guys. Her story as a single mother, never giving up and getting these products in her son's body, and he doesn't have these voices anymore. Good job, Juliana.
That's amazing.
We've met her personally, and we know we've worked with him, and that's a very near and dear story to my heart.
And so, with everybody,
you guys are doing so good job, and to spreading this message, and Mary too. I mean, 3 are good combination. 3 musketeer.
Dr. Shirley, did you want to say anything to Dr. Prasad online?
You want to do that before we close out?
Close us out.
Yes. I just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Prasad, for taking care of veterans first, and then all the rest of the people, because those are people who really gave so much for this country and didn't mind doing it. So we appreciate everything that you're doing for the veterans. And we're working really hard right here in East Texas. They're taking care of. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I also appreciate deep appreciation for our veterans who have sacrificed so much for us so that we can live happily and free from all this kind of stuff. So I hope we can do more for them. And but you guys, Dr. Shirley, you and all 3 musketeers here, doing as we can, as best we can, to spread the message. The question is of spreading the message.
Yes. Yes. and their
Oh.
families.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
were
and their family.
reminded on
Yes.
yesterday not to forget the families. Yes.
Yeah, and also, for example, many people have children and grandkids, or and gummy is, as you know, gummy has been approved for patent, and so my granddaughter takes all the time, twice, and so I think we will have the number. Once you pay $1,000 fee, then you get the number. But in this way, it has approved, so it is now nobody can reverse it, and so gummy should be taken by children, grandchildren, or teenagers, because teenagers are more spent on a, including my granddaughter, spent a lot of time on a cell phone.
Most vulnerable population because they grow
Yeah,
up
yeah,
in it.
yeah,
Never been out of it.
yeah, and they also keep it beside the bed. I mean, you just can't convince them. But the second best thing you can do, have a gummy. At least you will reduce some effects, acute and late effects. I'm also concerned about the late effects.
Yes.
But it's also safe for the children to take the omegas.
Yeah, I said
Sit
totally
down,
safe. Yeah,
take
totally
it
safe.
time or
And so I think all the product that we have, except microdilly, the adult dose you can give to the children, but except that, the rest of them is or for example, probiotics, intestinal. Generally, children don't get intestinal dysbiosis, and so, but once in a while, suppose she's taking a antibiotics or something like that, at that time for a few days you can give them. It's non-toxic, and of course collagen peptides is they don't lose it as yet because they don't have high oxidative stress, so you don't have to worry about collagen peptide giving them, but at least you can give them a gummy, and at least the gummy alone would be very good for her, and the at least one capsule, if they can swallow it, the omega, and so I think but at least gummy they can take for sure.
Wow, we have come to the close of the optimal longevity series again.
Thank
And
you.
it
Yeah.
It does. And we have a question, and I'm gonna try to answer these. We get into these, but someone said, please tell me the product with the cannabidiol does it have active marijuana in it, Dr. Prasad?
No, obviously no, not at all. Zero zip.
Zero zip. There you go, Gilda. You got your answer.
Therefore, you cannot test positive for Department of Transportation or your job. You can still take this because it's, what did I hear you say, Dr. Prasad? 99.99.
There's no THC.
No THC.
Yeah, not even 0.1% or 0.01%.
Perfect.
Okay.
First, like the marijuana plant has a 20% THC, but the plant that we use to isolate, they use isolated. The plant itself has 0.3% THC, and then you further purify it, so it has a 0 THC here. Can't detect.
Perfect.
It is an amazing product, Gilda, and anybody on there that's struggling, take the 4/4 and some of that CBD, and you will feel better. You will.
Yeah, especially anxiety disorder. This is must.
All
right. Well, I guess.
All right. So
the Three Musketeers.
From the Three Musketeers, Dr. Prasad, and Dr. Shirley, fourth Musketeer. Okay.
3 plus 1.
3 plus 1.
Yeah.
Get back to the person that invited you on this call,
Please.
and say you're ready to get started. Okay. And then if you want to see any other optimal longevity series, this video or others, you can go to Team Serve on YouTube and you can watch those videos there. We will see you next month on the optimal longevity series on Tuesdays.
One more thing, there's 2 days left and we have our children's gummy on special. Buy 2, get 1 free, which means for $200, you can have a 6-month supply of children's gummies. And I also like to I'm going to just throw in the plug on this. I like to give them to our elderly as gumdrops because sometimes they don't like to take the product. but they love gumdrop.
Yeah,
All right. Well, on that,
okay.
Three Musketeers, have a great night. And thank you for joining us on the
Thank you.
Optimal Longevity Series. We'll see you next week, same time.
Yep.
Have a
All
great
right.
day from Tyler, Texas. Be well.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
All
And
right.
Thank you
Good
to
night.
Dr. Prasad.
You can
Good
unmute.
night.
Dr. Prasad.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Dr.
Thank
Shirley.
you.
Good night, Dr.
Later.
Shirley.
Good night, everybody.
Cheers.
Good night.
Thank you.
Mary and Dr.
Good
Shirley.
night, everyone. Thank you, Dr.
Good.
Prasad.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.